not the one that has to hear it.
It's okay. I can feel my pulse, so it's okay.
Let me check.
Good evening. Welcome to the March meeting of the Seminole County Board of Adjustment. For those of you in the audience who have not attended one of these hearings recently, please allow me to review our normal procedures. Staff will introduce each item for consideration. If you'd like to speak on a matter, there is a form in the lobby you need to fill out and give to the clerk before you can speak. The applicant and the applicant's supporters will be heard first. Those in opposition, if any, will be heard next. Then the applicant will be given a chance for rebuttal. Comments should be restricted to the pertinent information regarding the item that's before the board. We don't get into personal disputes or homeowners disputes or any of that kind of stuff. If you are an individual, you will have 3 minutes to share your thoughts. If you represent an organization, you'll have 6 minutes. Speakers should move closer to the podium when staff is introducing your item. Before you begin speaking, if you could please identify yourself by your name and address, we would appreciate it. And we ask that everyone in the audience give each speaker courteous and polite attention. The board might ask questions of speakers or staff members, so don't be surprised. And information that's presented will be kept as part of the record. If what you're presenting is just purely digital on a device, we ask that after the meeting, you send a copy of that to staff. I'll then ask for a motion from the board. Once the motion's been made and seconded, discussion from the floor will be closed. Following discussion, a vote will be taken, and if a member does not say aye or nay in response to the motion, they are considered to have voted in favor of it. If you disagree with any decision of this board, you have 15 days to appeal it to the county commission, and after the meeting, staff can help you with that process. So having said that, number one.
Good evening. For the record, Megan Zanorski, Project Coordinator for Planning. This variance request is for 315 North Orange Avenue. This property is not located in a platted subdivision, but is located north of the intersection of North Road and North Orange Avenue in the A1 zoning district. The applicant is seeking a front yard setback variance from the required 50 feet to 0 feet for fencing and driveway gates. The proposed structures are a 6 feet tall aluminum fence along the front property line and 6 feet tall wood privacy fence along the side property line, as well as 2 architectural double gates with a peak height of 7.5 feet, all located within the required front yard setback. The proposed fence and gates are located 25 feet from the edge of the road, and traffic engineering has no objection to the proposed location of the fencing or gates. The applicant has submitted 1 letter of support, which was provided with the agenda. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for additional questions.
Gentlemen, any questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant here? Look at that right up front.
Hello, John Vite at 315 North Orange Avenue.
Yes, sir. Anything you want to add to what staff has shared?
I do not. I basically wanted to put fencing in where fencing existed when we moved in. It was old and destroyed, and we're replacing it along the existing fence line. And the style and fence that we're choosing is similar to other neighbors in the property. It's actually where we got the idea. Some of the other homes are very beautifully adorned with the same style of fencing.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, any questions? Yes, sir.
Question. What type of fence was up? I was reading the app. What type of fence was up there beforehand?
It was a wooden 3-board. I think it was 3 or 4 feet tall. It's hard to tell because it was largely destroyed by falling trees and limbs. It was completely overgrown with vines.
Same footprint, sir, that you're just basically putting the new one in?
Correct. In the front, yes.
Thank you.
Any others? Quick question, and you had mentioned that it's similar, what you're proposing is similar to what your neighbors have. Do you have any photos of them?
I do.
You can share? Oh, love it. No, sir, if you'd give them to our staff are whiz kids with this technology.
That's the one that's most similar to what we were proposing to put up. These are some older versions of the same 6-foot metal picket at different addresses.
Cool.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Evans.
So from the Google Street View and even from your Neighbors of Support's letter, so the entire front of your house was completely overgrown. I mean, that's all, yeah, that. So all of that's like, you've removed all that, and now you're just trying to put in this ornate gate?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and in there somewhere was the old fence. It's
Right.
impossible to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in support of the application? Yes, sir. And yes, ma'am. If you just please share with us your name and address real quick.
Absolutely. My name is Jennifer Schumacher. I reside at 5938 Feather Lane, Sanford, Florida, which is across the street from this property. I'm also the president of the Homeowners Association for Seminole Estates, which is in our neighborhood. So a little history on this. Roughly 2003, 2004, Seminole County decided it was cheaper to pave all the roads in Seminole County rather than leaving and maintaining dirt roads. So North Orange Avenue was paved. The county came in and started surveying where the road needed to be. The survey team couldn't find it because the road was completely on my property. The county, Jim Beach, who was head of Seminole County Roads, who I believe still is, him and I, for months and months and months, worked this out to get this paved. Seminole County did not have enough money to move the road to the correct location, only to pave it. Seminole County brought me 20 loads of road base. I paid myself $3,000 to have some of the trees removed to move it in a more straighter location. Because if you continue looking towards 46 on this picture, the road shifted way far to the west. In agreement to take down some of the trees that were there on a uninhabited property, because there was no house at the time, it was under construction, Jim Beach and I went to the neighbors that owned the property prior and the other gentleman to the south, Kenny Kercheval, and in lieu of moving the road, basically was not on their property, it's on county property, I put up a brand-new fence for him. I took down the old fence and I put up a brand-new fence. Now, that was 20 years ago, and that was the dilapidated fence that the Vajadas took down. The fence next to them, which I know where the county markers were when they surveyed it from the Seminole County Survey Division, their fence isn't even on the right spot. There's a couple feet in. And I don't know, I'm sure John has pictures of the horrible garage door fence next to it. That's also why they're wanting to put up the privacy fence. There is not one person in this neighborhood in Seminole Estates of the 103 lots that would protest the fence that this property owner is wishing to put up. It is going to be an improvement by far. So,
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen,
All right.
any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen of the board, ladies, gentlemen of the staff, thanks so much. My name is Craig Bissell. My wife Judy Bissell is in the third row. We're neighbors of Ms. Schumacher's and these folks that are petitioning you here today. It's a semi-rural neighborhood. We all have plus or minus 5 acres. There's some equestrian property there. In fact, Ms. Schumacher operates a boarding stable. Just about every house in the neighborhood was built by somebody different. So it's kind of a unique neighborhood. And many of the properties, most of the properties, have a fence ranging from 0 to 50 feet and anything in between off the street line. So what these folks are proposing to do is no different than most of the neighbors have. And in fact, as was said earlier, what they're trying to do is just replace an old fence in the exact same location that it was before. If you could see the house today versus what it looked like when they took possession of it, night and day different. They're doing a fabulous job upgrading their property and certainly upgrading the neighborhood, and what they're asking for today is legitimate, reasonable, and certainly in line with, as Ms. Schumacher said, what everybody in the neighborhood would support. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Anyone else, thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in support? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Boy, if every neighborhood had folks getting together like this, man, goodness gracious. All right, nobody here to speak in opposition. Your pleasure, gentlemen.
Move to approve.
Mr. Beagley has a motion to approve. Vice Chair has a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Enjoy. I know you got a job ahead of you now. Number 2.
Good evening, for the record again, Megan Zanorski, project coordinator for planning. This variance request is for 1675 Astor Farms Place. This property is located in the planned development Astor Farms Phase 1 subdivision. The applicant is seeking a rear yard setback variance from the required 25 feet to 6 feet for an existing 220 square foot screen enclosure. The existing 11-foot by 20-foot screen enclosure is not the subject of a code enforcement violation. The pool screen enclosure meets the required setback and is permitted at a reduced setback per the land development code, but the screening room is required to meet principal structure setbacks. The applicant has submitted 4 letters of support, which was provided to you with the agenda. The subject property has no prior variances. That concludes my presentation. I am available for additional questions.
I'm taking a look, and maybe I missed it, at the graphic, and I see 3 in support. Where's the 4th? I believe you, but just to know where to look on the map.
In the notes themselves, there were 3, and then
That could be a typo.
homeowners.
I apologize.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
anything you can tell us about 1679, 82, that they have enclosures as well? Were those permitted?
So pool enclosures have a reduced setback.
Right.
It's the hard roof screen, and the only variance that was in the area was 1727 Astor Farms Place.
Thank you.
Any other? Thank you, ma'am. Is the applicant here? Yes, sir. If you could just share with us your name and address, please.
Well, I'm hearing, my name? or-
Yes, sir. Your name and address,
Yeah,
please.
James Armstrong, 2750 Cypress Slough Way, Geneva, Florida.
Please.
Okay, so I'm not the homeowner, but I'm the contractor that installed that screen enclosure. And of course, we do pull permits on all the jobs. And this particular one, we actually outran it, and we checked the setbacks. It looked good. We were going by what, 90% of them are. When you have the setbacks correct on the sides and the rear, you're good. So we had a timeline. We moved forward with it. And then, of course, we applied for the permit. It came back, whoops, it's rejected because the insulated roof portion had a greater setback than the enclosure, which was, and I've been in business for 35 years, and I haven't seen it. Now, I delegate a lot, but I haven't seen that particular instance. So that's how we find ourselves in this position here. We got ahead of it. So I think from the county, from what I've heard, the county's position is, hey, we don't want something that could be turned into habitable living space with the solid roofs. In the past, people would go and they try to turn that into habitable living space. Next thing you know, you're 5 feet from your neighbor and you're living in your living room. This is clearly not the case, and I can show you some documents of how the job's designed. There's been photographs provided. But basically, it's just a solid roof screen enclosure. And it only has 2 screen walls to it, so there's no footers, foundations. There's not even any chance that the thing can be converted into a habitable living. And if it's not granted, it's going to be very unfortunate for the Williams, because we're going to have to, the job's going to look exactly like it looks. We'd have to take the solid roof off and convert it to screen, and it's not going to be any change in the aesthetic of this enclosure. It's just going to be screen instead of solid. And so from a visible standpoint, there's your flyover right there. You have the flyover, you'll see it from that, or if you're in it, you'll be able to see that roof. But if you're standing in the backyard anywhere else, it's going to be very hard to tell there's even a solid roof there. So that's kind of where we're at, is just, and the people, if it is not granted, they're not going to have any, there's no lanai, or very little lanai on the house, so they're not going to have any area to get out of the sun in their pools. So,
Gotcha. Makes sense. Gentlemen, any questions? Yes, sir.
I have
Mr. Evans.
one. So the covered roof only covers that southern portion of the screen. Everything else is a normal screen enclosure.
Yes, sir.
So the variance is really just for that small
Yeah,
section.
and it can be reduced down. I think we're allowed to have I have an illustration that shows it would be down to like 4 feet, which wouldn't do much for them,
Right.
It's just a walkway at that point in time. But the design of the enclosure, I don't know if there's a photograph that shows that we provided, but the design of the enclosure is going to look exactly the same if it's not granted, so we're scratching the head going, wow, it's really kind of a technicality, but, yeah, they're your rules, not ours, but we're here to just try to, assist in any way, shape, or form that we can, get this thing through and granted. So,
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Anyone here to speak in support of the applicant? Yes, sir, please.
Hello. My name's Richard Weiss. My address is 13316 Fairway Point Drive in Orlando, Florida. I work for the pool company that sold the job that contracted the contractor to put the screen enclosure up. And one item that I think is of the highest importance, if in fact what we were told is true, the reason why the setbacks for the elite roof, the insulated roofs are because in Seminole County, there's been a lot of abuse of putting the roof in and then doing something else with it and not just leaving it as a screen room roof. We have a signed affidavit from the Williams stating that they will never turn that room into anything other than what it is. That's what they intended to do with it. They're a great couple, great family, beautiful home. And so just wanted to step up and say that. We've provided the neighbors and the homeowners affidavit in support of never allowing it to turn into anything else. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in support? Seeing none, anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, gentlemen, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
I missed whose motion? Mr. Beasley? I know, I got it right the first time. I'm sorry. We have, and a second from the vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, passes. Enjoy. I'm very sorry about that.
Beagley.
I'm sorry.
You were right the second time.
Right the prior time. Goodness. Number 3, before I embarrass myself again. Oh, that was continued.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Number 4.
The board needs to officially continue it to the next month.
The applicant has requested a continuance due to a personal matter. The chair will entertain a motion to continue.
So made.
Seconded.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's continued. Number 4, please.
Sorry, clerking and doing
Oh, I'm scrolling too.
presentations
No,
this evening.
That's fine.
This variance request is for 5329 Bristol Cone Way. The property is located in the R1BB zoning district and within the platted subdivision of Astor Grand at Lake Forest. The applicant is seeking a rear yard setback variance from the required 20 feet to 7.5 feet for a 360 square foot screened pergola addition. The variance request is for an existing 11-foot by 20-foot screen enclosure that is not the subject of a code enforcement violation. The pool screen enclosure meets, am I reading the right one? Okay, sorry. The pool screen enclosure meets the required setback, is permitted at a reduced setback per the land development code, but the screen room is required to meet principal structure setbacks. The applicant has submitted HOA approval. The subject property has no prior variances. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any additional questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant here? Anything you'd like to share, sir? You don't have to, though.
No. Well, I just want to say a couple things. So, Chris Peters, 5329 Bristol Cone Way. As she had mentioned, we have HOA approval. We don't go past the current patio that we've already had put in for our back patio pool area. We're staying within that current footprint that a screen enclosure would cover. We have 3 kids that attend Seminole High School, They are on the volleyball, the soccer, and Dazzler dance team. We have tons of their friends over, tons of school kids over. They enjoy the backyard. They enjoy the pool. It's going to be a nice enhancement for not only our family, but all of the friends and kids that come over and enjoy our backyard. So I just wanted to add that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, questions for the applicant? Seeing none, anyone here to speak in support of this application? Seeing none, anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, your pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved from the vice chair, second?
Seconded.
Mr. Evans, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition? All right, enjoy, sir. Number 5.
This variance request is for 1101 Delk Road. This property is located in the A1 zoning district and is not within a platted subdivision. The applicant is seeking a north side yard setback variance from the required 50 feet to 10 feet for a 1,500 square foot proposed barn. The variance request for the proposed barn is 30 feet by 50 feet. That is not the subject of code enforcement violation and meets the required setback for the adjacent residential structures per the land development code. The applicant will be required to submit a statement of intent as to use, and the plans will be stamped for agricultural use only. The subject property has no prior variances. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any additional questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions for staff?
I have one.
Mr. Evans?
So, because it's agricultural and it's a barn, so the applicant really could not come back and try to convert this to an ADU at any point?
They could. It would be required to meet all land development code
Okay,
requirements at the time of permitting.
And come back to us, okay. Okay, that was all I had for the interim.
All right, any other gentlemen? Is the applicant here? Yes. Yes, sir, please.
Hi, my name is Jim Katzer, and I'm the owner of the property. I don't live there, but I live at 176 South Shadow Bay in Longwood, Seminole County. It's actually not a barn, it's a garage, and it's replacing some existing outdated structures, which are currently 10 feet there. I think we have some pictures. So it's a 3-car garage with a bathroom that replaced there's 4 units, or 4 old structures there that's replacing, and it can show you an elevation of what's going in there. I know the application said barn, but everything was approved until they said the use, and we said, well, it's tractors that we're storing there, so they said.
Doesn't that change? If the use changes, doesn't that change the?
That was actually going to be my question, too.
He did just state that they're storing agricultural equipment inside of it.
Yeah, just
so-
tractors and yard equipment. Do we have the pictures that we can show?
The large ones that I brought in earlier.
The large one there. That's to match the other things on the thing. Do we have the old picture?
No, it shows where the old structure was and the new structure.
Okay, there's just some,
I think it might be like
there's
page.
4 old sheds 3 old sheds and an old bathroom that's there. It's replacing that, basically in the same area. That's all I have. Thank you.
Gentlemen, any questions for the applicant? So am I understanding, if I'm taking a look at some of the drawings you had shared with us, is this going to be the same distance from the property line as the existing structures?
Yes, it is 10 feet.
That it's parallel with?
The current ones are 10 feet.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone here to speak in support of this application? Seeing none, anyone to speak in opposition? Seeing none, gentlemen?
Move to approve.
Move to approve, Mr. Beagley. Any second?
Second.
Second from the vice chair. Any need for discussion?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Please, for staff. Normally, we don't see an accessory structure, whatever you want to call it, barn shed, that has a bathroom, plumbing.
And that doesn't, in history here, that seems to always trip a threshold when it comes to building something that has plumbing associated with it. What's our pros and cons, I guess? I don't know what the specific answer I'm looking for.
Right. Kathy Himmel, Development Services. It was our policy several years ago not to allow restrooms into accessory buildings because we are having issues with people converting them over to living quarters. Once we adopted our accessory dwelling unit regulations, we do now allow for the restrooms, but we're just very mindful about allowing them the full, like on the electrical, allowing them like the 220. And if they do, then they would have to come through and have it approved as an ADU if they wanted to convert it over.
Okay, well, you answered my question, because that was the concern I had, is that
So you're right.
that
Yes, that
bathrooms,
used to be our
plumbing was
policy.
kind of,
Yeah.
not on our hit list, so.
Yeah, it was,
Okay,
you're right.
thank you. No more questions, sir.
Gotcha. So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, enjoy.
Thank you.
Number 6.
Hold on one second. Can you do the PowerPoint, please? Angie Gates, item number 6 is a request for a west side yard setback variance from 7.5 feet to 5 feet, and a rear yard setback variance from 10 feet to 7.5 feet for a shed in the PD Plan Development District located at 428 Eagle Circle. The subject property is also in the Sterling Park Unit 2 subdivision. The proposed shed will be 200 square feet and will encroach 2.5 feet.
Ms.
into
Gates,
the-
I apologize for interrupting you, but maybe you have our images kind of catch up here.
Are we? Oh,
I'm sorry, please continue.
okay. Sorry about that. The proposed shed will be 200 square feet and will encroach 2.5 feet into the required west side yard setback and 2.5 feet into the required rear yard setback. 2 letters of support were submitted by adjacent neighbors along with Sterling Park Homeowners Association approval letter. The rear of the property backs up to a greenbelt easement that is being used for the Sterling Park Community Recreation Common Area. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant here? Anything you'd like to add, sir?
No.
All righty.
I have a question.
Oh, but,
I
sorry.
can either ask staff or gentlemen, if you want
If
to
you'd come on up, please, sir, and just share with us your name and address, and... I'm sorry?
She's getting his walker.
You know,
Oh,
you guys stay right here. We have a mic that's moved.
there we go.
Yeah, my question is fairly straightforward and simple, so you don't need to get up.
We have a veteran. We will come to you.
Thank you. My question is, go back to the survey, the platted survey. That one. In that lower corner there, what would be diagonal from where the shed's being positioned, there's a box there with an X through it. Is that a structure of some sort?
That's the kibble box.
So it's just a utility?
Good.
Okay, thank you. That's all I was really looking for, so thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in support of the application? Seeing none, anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, gentlemen.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion approved from the vice chair, seconded by Mr. Beagley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Enjoy your shed, sir and ma'am. Number 7.
Item number 7 is a request for a front yard setback variance from 25 feet to 1 foot for a garage addition in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District in the Orienta Gardens subdivision located at 104 Una Lane. The proposed garage addition will be 540 square feet and will encroach 24 feet into the required front yard setback. There have not been any prior variances for this subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
I have one, and it might be for the applicant as well, but this property is kind of an odd one because the driveway is so far from the property line itself. How far is it from the property line to the actual edge of the street?
The edge of the asphalt?
Yes.
I thought it was 20.
8,
Yeah,
according
20.
to the site plan,
Yeah.
it says 28.
28.
Okay, so even if we gave the variance, there would still be 28 feet from the edge of the asphalt all the way to the new garage.
Correct.
Okay, all right, we can continue.
Hi there.
Hello.
If you'd share with us your name and address, whoever is going to speak.
My name's Joshua, this is Robin, surname Banks, 104 Una Lane, Altamont.
So the reason for our request is that we are growing our family. We have 2 children at home and 1 on the way, and we are outgrowing the space. So the additional garage will just give us some more room to expand within our home. Like you noted, there's plenty of room from our actual property line, even moving that 1 foot to the end of the property line into the street. So there's, the property line's a little funky, but still plenty of room. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to your
And
response.
thinking about what we heard earlier as well, there'll be no, water or any kind of alterations in that. It'll just be a garage. It'll be, 3 walls and a garage door at the front.
Makes sense. Gentlemen, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have one. So the garage currently there is essentially being converted to living space, and then the garage the variance would be your actual new car garage, so it's for storage or whatever you're using it for with
Yes.
kids, right? Okay, all right.
And of course, we'll get the correct permitting and
Sure.
everything else for the inside additions and changes.
That's good. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Whether the applicant can ask others or not, but can we pull up the site plan? So I was just validating, I'm not sure who drew this up, but the property shows that diagonal piece where the 1 foot the 1 foot difference off the property line is kind of overlapping the diagonal part, but the plat shows a square lot. I'm trying to figure out where the difference in the property lines are.
The plat, what is the plat?
I'm sorry, the tax assessor's map, if you go to we have it in our image.
So am I allowed to provide any context to that at all for his question?
If you know the answer.
So if you look at that, the tax assessor's maps, you show a
square.
A square rectangle, but the site plan shows kind of an angled corner in the front where the garage is at. And I was just trying to validate why there's a difference.
When we bought the house, that's kind of what we saw. So we had contacted a contractor, and we had them draw it all up, and they pulled the site, and they're like, time out, you have a very peculiar shot, because we thought that was ours, because again, that's what we saw when we bought the property 3.5 years ago.
I think the survey that we received when we bought the house showed that lot line, and I think that's what they used as well, so.
Right. I'm
Not
it's-
completely
it's
sure. It was a
bit of a
Here
surprise
or there,
for us
I'm just
as well.
trying, there's a difference there that
And Mr.
doesn't
Vice
show
Chair,
up on our tax assessor's maps.
if you'll take a look on that same page that staff has pulled up, and if you'll take a look at the aerial photo and the white lines, if you look in the top left, because this photo is flipped from the image, that matches the applicant's lines.
It does, yep.
Mr. Evans, is that what you were going to say?
So I had to go into the MLS for this because the lot line was so janky and so crazy. So when I went into the MLS, which is integrated with the Realist and ArcGIS type maps, it does show that the lot line comes down at this really odd diagonal. So it goes down really oddly and then goes straight across. So I mean, obviously I can't speak to why it's like that. It could be, for the gullies on the front end of I have no idea, right? I won't speak to the land code, but I will say that it is showing on my proprietary information as a real estate agent, showing this odd lot line. And so that is, I would assume, a federally noted and state noted property line. The way it's shown on this survey.
Yeah.
For whatever that's worth. Couldn't tell you why, but I did do extra research on this one because it was weird.
Ms. Hamill, you have thoughts?
I have thoughts.
Excellent.
Oh, wow. Is that the original plat?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Hold up the plat, and you can see, here's the diagonal right there.
Matching the one below it. Interesting.
But our street doesn't.
If you go all the way down the street, there's a property that is taking up the entirety of the street. It's people actually driving through someone's property to get to their properties. It's a very odd road from what we can see.
Who knows what the situation was at the time that
Right.
plat was created?
Sure.
Maybe big trees or something.
Lots of big trees.
Yes, actually, we have enormous camphor trees on that stretch.
They were probably designated as their landmarks at the time,
Could be.
you know,
Could
back
be,
in the 40s
And the
or
street at
whatever.
the end is Hadaway.
Oh, really?
Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah.
That's where my great-grandfather moved in this area.
I'd
Put
love to
up-
talk to you about
Yeah.
speed bumps on Hadaway. But that's probably another time.
You speed demons, slow down. All right, geez.
25, my 3-year-old says it.
Yes.
Sorry.
Ms. Atwell, thank you so much for finding that and sharing it.
Yeah.
Very much appreciated. Gentlemen, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Anyone here to speak in support of this application? Anyone to speak in opposition? Seeing none, gentlemen,
Motion to approve?
motion approved, Mr. Evans.
Second?
Mr. Beagley seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Best of luck with the new young'un. Number 8, please.
Item number 8 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 25 and a half feet, and a north side yard setback variance from 10 feet to 6 feet for a second-story addition in the R1A Single Family District in the Lakewood Shores First Edition subdivision located at 210 Cherrywood Drive. The proposed second-story addition will be approximately 606 square feet and will encroach 4.5 feet into the required rear yard setback and 4 feet into the required north side yard setback. The existing residence is a legal non-conforming structure that was built prior to the earliest Seminole County zoning regulations being adopted in 1960. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
I have one. So when I was doing research on this one, I noted that there really aren't any two-story structures in the area except for potentially 2. One actually on Cherrywood, which I believe is a duplex, a converted, just like this one would be, an older home, 1960 or whatever year built, and then converted to a duplex. And there's another one, I believe, on Maple or Briar. I think Briarwood's to the east, or it's 2 streets to the east. That it looks like it was the garage conversion straight up into a 2-story. So I just want to make sure, like, is there anything that our board should be considering in terms of this variance when it comes to a 2-story structure in a
There-
neighborhood that really has?
There isn't anything that limits them,
Okay.
except for our height
the setbacks
requirement.
and height, okay.
Right.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
Good question. Is the applicant here?
Can I, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Mr.
sorry,
Chair,
yes.
One more.
Vice Chair.
The 25.5 and the 6-foot, they are currently to the existing first-story
Yes.
foundation.
Yes.
So,
But-
and just based on the graphic that I'm looking at, the second story doesn't appear to go all the way to the rear of the house.
You're correct.
Be the site plan.
Or the front.
Correct. So I guess my question is, so is the portion that we're looking at tonight, the addition, isn't 25, it's actually greater than 25?
It's actually the
So you're
single-family
looking at-
residence
you're
that's
looking at the
existing for the rear, yes. So it'll bring the existing home in compliance.
Okay.
And since they're adding the square footage, they have to apply for the variance for the side yard as well.
Understood.
Because the entire structure is subject to...
And honestly, that's the only thing I was trying to figure out. Because it, you know, while it's an application to get approval for the second story, bottom line is we're approving an after the fact for the original.
A change to the existing structure.
But legal non-conforming.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Good question. Love our engineers.
He always has the good ones.
Engineers, smart guys. Is the applicant here?
That's why we weren't lawyers.
Come on down if you would like to, please. What's that?
So that's why we're not lawyers.
He said you look great tonight.
I hear that all the time. That's a damnest thing. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, actually my husband's name is on the application, but I'm Kristi Baziva. And we bought this house to be built for our daughter. And that's it. You know, we like the neighborhood, it's close to our work. But she got married and she just bought the house last month. Now we have to build it for us because we have high HOA. And I really like the area there. It's close to 7092. But it's all really old house and the roof is collapsed inside. And they left it like this.
Thank
I
you, ma'am.
appreciate it for your
And-
help.
Any questions for the applicant? Have you guys chatted with your neighbors to see if they're okay with?
Yes, Annette, actually, the woman who owns the duplex, she built it. She called me like maybe 2 weeks ago when we put the sign to come over. I don't know, I didn't see her. But she said she has similar problem. And she said she will support us if you need, you know, her vote. The other way, we don't know the rest of the neighbors. On the right side, they trying to sell the house. I think they flipped it. On the left side, the guy is living in Jacksonville for now. That's what I heard from her. And not really, on the back, it's apartment complex. That's why we don't have a contact with them.
Sounds good, all right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in support of this application? Seeing none, anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, gentlemen?
I have one more question for staff, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, Mr. Evans, yes, for sure.
Sorry, I was just waiting for opposition and support. So based on something she said, I just want to confirm with staff based on the Cherrywood address. And this is based on the research I saw as well. The Cherrywood address at the end of the cul-de-sac that got turned into the duplex, I believe is also like the original home, just like this one, had the flat composite roof, and then got built up and out. So it's essentially the same project that we're looking at here.
Okay.
I'm asking for
I
confirmation.
didn't research.
Okay.
the duplex, sorry.
All right, no worries then. Well, that's, I think, what I found.
I mean, I know that there is a portion of this area that was rezoned. I know that, but I didn't research.
So from what I
I
did
researched
find-
variances, I didn't
Right,
research
the-
if
the
it
rest of
was.
the- No, that's okay. And I only did it because adding a two-story is such a difficult and intense project, and I was curious if any homes in the area, because they are so old, had done it themselves. And the one I will say on Cherrywood does seem to be that it was originally built at the same time as this one. It's a ranch-style, flat roofing, and then got built into this duplex. So for whatever that's worth to anybody, you know, information I found. So.
Thank you for sharing, that's all. So, what's the board's pleasure?
I move to approve.
Motion approved, Mr. Beagley, second from Mr. Evans. All those in favor?
Larry, seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry, Larry,
I knew, I wasn't going to correct him because I just wanted to be able to correct the minutes later on.
hazing on TV live, goodness. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you, sir.
All righty, enjoy.
Don't leave me hanging.
Mine too, geez. Number 9, and I want to hear this name.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the same thing.
You got stuff with this?
Tappy toy.
Hold on one second. Let me.
They said it was, didn't you guys say it was like England?
It's something in regards from England. We'll ask the applicant and see if the applicant knows when he comes up, but I believe that when the subdivision was originally being platted, I said, what kind of name is that? And the builder at the time told me, but
The most
it's
awesome
been a
name
minute.
ever.
So I know it has something to do with England. It could be a town or something, but they'll let us know, I'm sure.
All right.
But anyway, item number 8 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 10 feet to 8 feet for a covered summer kitchen.
I'm sorry, shouldn't for the record you say the address of this property?
I'm getting ready to do that.
Oh, good,
You just
good.
got to give me a
I didn't
second.
wanna miss it.
Let me get
All
to
right,
it. For a summer kitchen in the PD Plan Development District in the Turnberry subdivision located at 1301 Tappy Torrey Circle.
Well done.
The proposed attached summer kitchen will be approximately 144 square feet and will encroach 2 feet into the required rear yard setback. The rear of the property abuts the Heathrow Golf and Country Club course, golf course, there have not been any prior variances for this subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant here? Because we have questions.
Did I say it right? Thank you.
See, Angie, all those compliments are now coming back.
Could you please share with us your name and especially your address, sir?
Again, yes. Nick Perfido, my wife Susan Perfido. We live at 1301 Tappy Torrey Circle in Heathrow. The origin of the name is because this is actually the last subdivision built in Heathrow. There is no more land. If you're familiar with the Heathrow Golf Course, originally number 9 was a par 4 dogleg left. It is now a par 3. That land was taken originally because they were going to move the swim and tennis club next to the country club. That never happened. They were left with the land. They decided to build out homes. So there's about 23 homes in that subdivision. Tappy Torrey's is actually a pub that runs along the 18th hole of, I'm going to forget the name of the course, in Scotland, the famous course in Scotland.
Oh, St. Andrews.
St. Andrews, yes, thank you. So that's where the name supposedly came from.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
So what you really want to do is a pub
We wanted to,
on the golf course.
just
Not a bad idea.
a couple of comments. This is hopefully the end of about a year-long process of trying to figure out how we can best enhance and beautify a 25-foot deep backyard. We originally thought we had a 5-foot setback. We were told by our contractor, no, you in fact have a 20-foot setback and the house sits at 25. So we originally were looking at doing a complete build-out of a covered outdoor living area. We found out that wouldn't fly. So now the only thing, as I understand it, that we need the variance for is our summer kitchen, which is coming from Paradise Grills, has a fixed covering on it. In order to sink those footings for the covering, that's what we need the setback for. Everything else is patio, hedges, fence, the like, which doesn't require the variance. So it's just those, where those posts are going to be planted for that covering. Final thought, we are western facing in the back, so we get clobbered by the sun. That would be the only covering that we have back there over that summer kitchen area. The rest of it's going to be open.
Gotcha. Perfect. Gentlemen, any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That was very informative. Any member of the audience here to speak in support of this matter? Seeing none. Anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Gentlemen, your pleasure.
Move to approve. You got it, sir. Go ahead, Mr.
I'll
Vice.
second.
All right, motion to approve in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, enjoy your pub.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Invitation's in the mail.
I'll be waiting.
And now it's trouble with mission.
Yeah.
All right, number 10, please.
Not that ethics training.
Mary Robinson, Planner and Code Enforcement Officer with Development Services. This is a request for a front yard setback variance from 50 feet to 28 feet to construct a pool screen enclosure in the A1 Agriculture District at 3301 Celery Avenue. This site is on the south side of Celery Avenue. It's not in a platted subdivision. He's requesting to replace a pool screen enclosure that was destroyed by Hurricane Milton. Since it does not meet the setbacks, it's a non-conforming structure, and typically, if they're considered destroyed more than 50%, they can't be replaced unless they meet all the applicable setbacks. So there haven't been any prior variances for the property, and this concludes my presentation.
Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
Was the original, was the original enclosure built at a time that allowed it at that
No.
point? No. Okay.
All right, so it was not lawfully permitted, but it's just been there for a while.
didn't do the research on if it was lawfully permitted, but it's a pretty old property, and I think the pool has been there quite a few years.
You can definitely see how the world is built around them there.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any other questions for staff?
He may have had the additional property, because at one point in time, there was a take for part of Celery Avenue in front of his property.
Gotcha.
Just one more simple one. On even that image that we have on the screen right now, there's two narrow parcels, lines on both sides, on the left and right side. Do we know what those are?
They're tracks.
Their track's part of the plan development that's over there, right?
Correct, because Cameron, is it Cameron Estates?
Um,
That built around the house.
Yeah.
So those are tracks, because I did the research for you.
Tracks is just in like
Buffers.
landscape tracks,
space.
whatever. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because when you say that, you notice like their fence goes right up to the red though still.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant here? Yes, sir, please, come on up.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I'm Robert Klepper, 2386 Pavilion Terrace. I am the contractor for the pool enclosure. We did research with the ladies upstairs, and it was permitted in 1985, we found. The structure was knocked down by Hurricane Milton in October, and they just want to replace the actual structure. It is actually, not counting their property line, it is almost 50 feet from the road. It's very close to that, but with their property line, we need that extra couple of feet to make it 50. There is actually a fence up there, and those hedges are a lot bigger right there too, kind of covering it the same area, and it's going to be the same exact structure, a dome pool enclosure.
Gotcha. Any questions for the applicant? So it sounds like just this was permitted back, you said, in the mid-'80s?
Yeah.
In the intervening time, the land development code was amended, and now you're non-conforming?
Right.
You were knocked down? Yeah. Gotcha. Any other questions, gentlemen? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience to speak in support of this matter? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Your pleasure, gentlemen.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. We have a
Second. Oh, I missed it. Go ahead.
A second and a
Mr.
third.
Evans. Mr. Evans.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there you go. Enjoy.
Very much.
And now number 11, our last one.
Yes, Mary Robinson again, for the record. This is a request for an east side yard setback variance from 10 feet to 7.5 feet, and a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 10 feet for a screen enclosure in the R1AA single-family zoning district at 2458 Sunderland Road. The subject property is located in the English Estates subdivision. And like I said, it's an R1AA. The variance is for a screen enclosure with a composite roof system, so they're required to meet the principal setbacks, same as the home. And this is going to replace an existing open screen enclosure, which is in disrepair. Like I said, it has to meet the same 30-foot setback as the home. And that there are no prior variances for the subject property, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
I've got one.
Mr. Evans.
So just like the previous item we had earlier today, this is coming up because it's got the composite. Does the screen enclosure, when it was originally permitted, meet the setbacks of today that we're looking at?
Well, it was open. I think if you go back, it was an open screen enclosure, a pool screen enclosure, and they have shorter setbacks.
Right, but it did meet.
Yes.
So the footprint they're building on does meet pool enclosure, it's just because it has a composite roof.
Composite roof,
Okay,
correct.
excellent. Just want to clarify.
Good question. Any other questions for staff? All right, is our applicant here? Excellent. You'll have all the answers.
I'm Carrie Moreau, 1065 East Broadway, Oviedo, Florida.
So it's, the structure is replacing the exact structure that's existing. There's nothing new being added or taken away. So when the homeowner bought the home in 2011, it had this structure there, and so it's very, very old. I think it was installed in 1980, like you were saying, 1984, 1985? Yeah. So it's the exact same thing. Nothing's being changed.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions?
I just want to be clear, so, the way I was listening before, so this composite roof system, that was there in the original?
It was there when she purchased the home in 2011, so she's not sure exactly when that composite roof was installed, but the screen enclosure part is the only part that's being replaced.
Thank you. And a question for staff.
Well, the aerial's showing just a screen.
Well, I mean, this part right here is
Oh,
a
that
flat.
part.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. There's a little flat composite roof there.
Is that what we're seeing kind of in that top right corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. On the pool, it's the top right, it looks like, yeah.
That's a flat patio roof.
Huh, I missed that.
Gentlemen, any other questions for the contractor?
This looks like they're doing a
All
whole.
right, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
And Vice Chair, you had a question for staff?
Well, I'm sorry, maybe I missed something in the conversation from Mr. Evans' question. So when the structure was permitted, the difference now, what we were talking about is it has a composite roof, but based on
Portion, yeah.
what was presented to us, that was already an existing condition when it was approved the first time.
Hold on, let me clarify, Kathy Hamill, let me clarify this. Are you trying to say that they're replacing the same, that it was a composite roof, solid roof before, and now they're just replacing it
Yeah,
again?
thank you, Ms. Hamill. I was just concerned, it sounded like we were looking at this differently than what was conditioned before because of a composite roof, but it sounds like it's same now, that there was no difference. And I was trying to establish why we were distinguishing something different because there was a composite roof in this
Right.
application.
It was as you can see from the aerial, it was an open screen, and they did have a portion of it that's composite, but because they're taking the open screen on the cage, making it solid, then it
So
has to comply.
the entire structure has a composite roof.
That's my understanding.
The new screen enclosure will have an total.
That's the difference. I didn't see that.
The new solid roof will not cover that whole pool.
Okay, that was my.
It's just that composite roof.
area,
I thought it was covering the whole
That's
pool
my-
also because
my
the
bad.
site
I didn't
plan.
See, that's what I had captured,
Yeah.
that there was a difference, and that's what I was
That's what I
trying to, seemed like there was a discrepancy somewhere between what we were hearing.
So then the open enclosure is not getting a composite, we're just replacing the composite that's already there.
I know,
I'm sorry, ma'am, I apologize for the record, if we could make
Oh,
you.
I think she's saying they're replacing the screen room.
Yes, replacing the screen pool
Right.
enclosure is being replaced.
With composite. So.
No, with.
Just in for screen. Okay.
Yes, with screen.
Okay.
No additional composite's going to be installed?
No,
Right.
no, it has a composite little section,
Okay.
and then the screen enclosure that's there is old, it's being taken off, and a new screen enclosure is going where the existing one is.
Okay.
Yeah,
So screen's going to screen, is the composite being replaced as well with composite?
no, the composite's not being touched.
So then I guess to staff, what really are we giving the variance for?
The permit application is for a screen pool enclosure.
Look at your site plan.
The site plan looks like it's composite. It says, building new, up-to-date bronze dome screen enclosure with composite roof system.
Yeah.
I guess, Mr. Evans, am I hearing your question then is that
That's
if
my-
this is
that's the whole
substantially
thing.
the same as what's existing, why is a variance being sought?
Right, if the pool enclosure, this open screen, it's just being replaced with screen,
Yeah.
and the original enclosure was conforming and permitted, why are we providing a variance for an open
Exactly.
screen enclosure?
Yeah.
Exactly.
We submitted the plans, and it went through review. Then at that point, we were told that we were told it was never permitted, that this was not permitted when it was installed. There's not even a permit showing for the pool.
I missed that.
I missed that too.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we were told when we submitted for permitting. And then we were told, you can't do this, you need a variance. And then we proceeded to submit the items to get a variance.
We had a little bit of conflict between testimony and packet there. Gotcha.
Right.
Good evening, Megan Zanorski, Project Coordinator. I actually reviewed the permit when it came through to give you some clarity. Based on the site plan that was was provided, it did look like they were placing composite roof over the entire pool. We do see that from time to time. And that since there were no permits in place at the time that this would have been permitted, we really didn't have a formal building division to permit these. So it could have had a permit, could have not had a permit. They're past the point of us having records retention for these residential structures. So it may appear that she may not need the variance for the composite roof if it's staying where it is. Without a site plan that shows that actual dimension, we wouldn't be able to do that today. So if you wanted to continue it, to provide us an actual site plan so that we can make sure that it complied with the setback requirements for the composite. Kathy?
I feel comfortable in the fact that it seems like the site plan that she submitted, the language made it seem like it was a solid composite roof over the pool. If what she's saying now is they're just wanting to do an open screen,
Yeah, I'm
then
not
she
sure
doesn't
where
need to
that
have the rear
communication
yard
comes.
setback. And I feel comfortable with, the only one I'm questioning is the side yard for the existing composite roof. So for me, I feel as though we can take care of this tonight and not have her go through the hassle of having to go through another
That's a
meeting.
little square, yeah.
I agree, because it sounds like what we're discussing here
Yeah.
is a problem of government and not the applicant.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
It may meet the.
Gentlemen, do you need to hear more, or have you heard enough?
I've heard enough.
I've heard enough.
Yeah, I think we're done.
The board is satisfied with what we've heard so far, so I'll close the floor.
Okay.
Your pleasure, gentlemen. Mr. Beagley, do you have a motion?
I move to approve, Mr. Chair. About 5 minutes ago, I moved to approve.
We have a second from the vice chair.
So
All
what's
those- Yes,
what's
sir.
what's the motion, just for posterity? Because I know there's some discrepancy between the written record and the testimony tonight. And, I just want to make sure that we're clear on what the actual motion is tonight.
My understanding, and Mr. Beagley, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that you are moving to approve the application that's before
Application
this
as
board.
before board, yes.
Right, and there's no harm, no foul on that for her to have
Because
an
it's,
approved
yeah,
variance.
it's going to be a moot point anyways.
Yeah.
So, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one question on that. If we approve the variance, right, then it becomes recorded onto the property, correct?
So if in the future they ever wanted to put a solid composite
Yes.
roof on it,
Yes,
they can do it,
it's okay.
Okay, all right,
because it
Okay.
runs with the land.
all right. Well, then if we're
Okay.
cool with that, then that's cool.
Just wanted to make sure we're clear on that point.
Better safe than sorry, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we need to open that point up to discussion to the board? Is it
No,
a
we
minute
do
point?
not.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those in opposition? Run while you can. All right. Now, next thing, we do have our ethics presentation from the county attorney's office, but if the board does not object, I'd like us, before we get to that, to go ahead and just dispose of the ethics. The ethics, I'm looking at my notes, of the minutes.
Freudian slip.
Ethics are gone.
We're going home early. Dispose of the minutes, and so the chair will entertain a motion on the minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion approved, we have a second, we have a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
It passes by acclamation, yes. All right. Guys, you're leaving when it gets exciting. Or do you have something to come before the board?
Possible. I thought we were supposed to, because we were going for a variance, and I didn't hear you guys call us up.
What's the address?
One is 116 Spider Road.
You're April. That's April.
How long is this ethics? 'Cause I need to get back home. How long is the ethics? I need to get back home.
Depends. I want to follow you.
You are, through various licensing, you've gone
Did you
through
even
ethics
get
training.
Oh, many times.
Yeah, if you need to vote for a family member, vote.
Might need to. Okay.
I didn't know anything.
Robert,
You'll be notified.
The clerk will reach out to you.
Robert,
Okay.
Sorry, you have a separate PowerPoint?
Mr. McHugh,
how long is the,
Then it should be then that we're.
how long is this part? I need to get home,
Can
so.
you do this in?
I could probably do it in about 30 minutes.
Yep, I'll see you.
Let's
I've done it. Well, no, I need to go ahead and boogie.
family obligation.
Family obligation. So I've been through the, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't need to do this annually, correct?
We'll just make a note for the record, just that Mr. Beagley was leaving the meeting, just to make sure, just it's on the record.
Yes.
Megan, on the minutes,
Are we making on the record that he has no ethics, or are we
it
just
says.
saying?
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think through the other, you know, licensing and your time with the state, you've gone through ethics training also,
I
haven't
have,
you?
yes. I have those.
Yes, but yes, absolutely, run while you can.
We'll suffer for you.
Trying to screen me.
See you, dude.
Thank you, sir, see you next month.
It's, something's at the end, but.
It said ethics, but it didn't show that.
There, go back.
We may not have it after all.
Oh, that was just the agenda.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in the file either.
Let me see if it's in the other one.
Move to next month.
Maybe from.
Is that an
You know
is-
what, it's fine, you know what we're gonna do? You're gonna do it on the.
Yes, is that an iCloud thing you could just port over?
I can
It looks like we're just gonna swipe it under the camera.
with my notes.
Y'all are about to learn.
Yeah, we'll do it live.
Mr. McHugh, I've been trying cases for 30 years. Welcome to the way it used to be done.
Yeah. I've never, it's funny, I've never actually maneuvered this. I'm not sure if, can we get the camera?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've given this presentation a handful of times. I think I can get us out of here in about 30 minutes. So let's see here.
Who's got a timer?
All right, so here we go. All right, so as you know, providing a 30,000-foot view of the Sunshine Law, ethics, public records, the quasi-judicial process. I know that some of you, well, only you right now is an attorney, so you're very familiar with this. I know you've all been on the board for quite some time and are familiar with this, so try to breeze through. So Board of Adjustment is created by the County Commission. Members serve four-year
By the way,
terms.
don't please, we're teasing you, but don't feel rushed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please.
So your duties are set forth in the Land Development Code at 30.332. As you know, your powers are to hear appeals from the planning manager and to grant variances to Chapter 30 based on the hardship criteria codified in Chapter 30 of the Land Development Code.
Apologize to hear real quick, as county staff has been shifting, is Jose now the planning manager?
He is.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I'm sorry. He's Jose Gomez is the Development Services Director. I think, is Joy Giles the planning?
Is it whomever took Rebecca's job?
Jose took the director position, Dale left, and Joy is taking Dale's planning manager position.
Gotcha. Now, thank you.
Okay, and then, of course, your limitations, you can't grant a variance for the non-conforming use in the area or based on a use from a neighboring property that's in non-conformance. Of course, as you already know, Florida Sunshine Law requires public access to meetings of state and local officials, basically protects the public to become privy to decision-making and considerations that impact the local community. So no smoky backroom deals at the, what's the pub? Tabitory? No smoke, no backroom deals at the Tabitory. So the, what's covered in the Sunshine Law, it's basically any formal business that can foreseeably become before this board. So anything kind of that pertains to the subject matter of this board is captured by the Sunshine. So it doesn't apply to meetings between different board members. So like if you were meeting with a board member from a different body, that would not be applicable. Or if you were to meet with staff, that wouldn't be applicable. It would be between two or more members of this board. That's when it would be applicable. And notably, I did research this decision here, Howe v. Stembridge, and maybe, Mr. Hadaway, maybe you can comment on this. I've never seen anything that defines foreseeability in the decisional law or in the statute. So I think suffice it to say, foreseeability is just use kind of a common sense rule.
Yeah, it's a reasonable man standard.
It's a reasonable, yeah, exactly.
And woman, yes.
All right, Sunshine Law sets out 3 requirements for meetings. Open to the public, reasonable notice to the public of the meetings, and the minutes be taken. Recordings can be made as long as the recordings are transcribed into a verbatim record. So what is a meeting? It's obviously very broad, as I discussed. It's discussions between two or more members of the same body. Text, it could be applicable to really almost any communication. And as you all know, that category is only increasing in terms of the availability of how we communicate. Notably, beware of reply all. This has gotten some folks in trouble in the past where they unwittingly violate the Sunshine Law by replying all to a thread and not saying that another member of the board is on that thread. So just be cognizant of that.
Quick question also for
Yes.
clarification. It's conversations between two or more members of something, like you said, that's reasonably going to come before this board.
Correct.
Not as for, like, example, Judge Bravo couldn't show up and he said, would you mind terribly please letting the clerk know that I can't make it? That's two of us discussing things, but not anything that's going to come before this board.
Yeah, not anything that would cover what the function of this board.
Right.
So yeah, a more ministerial thing like that, I don't think would run afoul of the Sunshine.
Good, because I just admitted it on TV. So.
So this lays out the penalties for violations. So civil penalties. Notice you can see some of my chicken scratch here. It's actually a strict liability standard for civil penalties. So you don't even have to be. There's no knowing or willful element. The criminal side, there is a knowing element in there. So if you know that you're violating it and you still go forward anyway, that's kind of gets you over into the criminal category. So basically those cover just fines and penalties. I believe for civil penalties, that includes attorney's fees. So consequences of violation. So basically any action taken at that meeting that was in violation of the Sunshine is voided. Also notably, the concept of qualified immunity may not be applicable to the board especially if it's really egregious. So the board member who violates, or the board members who violate the Sunshine may have to hire private counsel. So voting requirements, everyone's got to vote unless they have a valid conflict. Conflicts include basically anything that would inure to his or her private gain, or relatives, or a principal/employer. So if you do have a conflict, you have to make a declaration of a conflict before there's any discussion on the item. And then after that, you may participate in the discussion, but you can't vote on that item. After action's been taken on that item, the board member that has the conflict has 15 days to file a Form 8B, which is basically, I think it's called a Memorandum of Conflict. It's a form promulgated by the Commission on Ethics. We have copies of that. And basically, it's an affidavit where you just outline your conflict and you submit it. Can't accept gifts. Yeah, that's pretty intuitive. No unauthorized compensation. So basically without saying it, talks about bribery. Can't do that. Can't misuse your public position. So basically using your status as a board member as leverage. So no kind of Machiavellian House of Cards type moves using your board member status. You can't have conflicting employment or contractual relationships. So I don't believe, I can't, of course this is a very factual situation. I can't imagine anybody on this board that would have an issue with this. Trying to provide an example. Maybe if you were like a contractor and that required you to, during the permitting process, to come before this board, that could be problematic and could potentially preclude you from participating on the board.
Robert,
So
can I-
yeah.
Just for clarity, as an engineer, I work with local company, they potentially have contracts with Seminole County.
Right.
Typically, my company, we file a conflict of interest, which means kind of eliminates me from taking active part
Right.
in those contracts. But is there anything I have, as a board, have to file with Seminole County to state that?
That could potentially fall under the inure to your principal, benefit to your principal, to your employer. And of course, I'll give you the classic lawyer answer, it depends. So that would be, if that were factually were to develop in your course of your membership, I would definitely, that would be something that we would need to look at closer. I think just to err on the side of caution, I would just abstain if that ended up developing to the point where.
It's never, it's happened once in my career,
Okay.
with company that I worked with in a board that I was on. But, and I abstained and, filed a conflict and did all that.
Yeah, and I think
There's nothing I need to, worry about in a sense, other than if something should come up.
Yeah.
I just need to announce it.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And that kind of goes into recurring conflicts. And I couldn't quite find anything, again, it doesn't really dive into the granular details of what recurring means, but like your example of your employment, that wouldn't even come close to recurring in my opinion. I think it would be something where it's almost constant. And you're constantly having to remove yourself from participation because of your employer having a recurring conflict. So that example, once in a blue moon, I think that's completely permissible. So for ethics complaints, so the county attorney's office does not provide legal defense. Board members must hire private counsel if there's ever an ethics complaint filed against you. Now, I don't have any personal experience with this. This may require further research if you're interested. The county attorney's office will render maybe like as a preliminary opinion on certain ethics-related situations if it hasn't matured to beyond, I guess, the complaint, or if it's kind of like the writings on the wall, there's some issues. But again, I don't have any personal experience with that. I don't think anybody in our office has any experience with that. So that's something, hopefully, if y'all just use common sense, we don't have to have any issue with that. Yeah.
To that point, just to expand on it a bit, is the county attorney's office comfortable with us bringing them a hypothetical based on facts, before the meeting, saying,
"Oh yeah,
I'm concerned I might have a conflict. You guys can."
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah. Absolutely. And I welcome that. Mm-hmm. Anytime we can anticipate those things and hash them out before the meeting, the better. So absolutely, good question. Okay, so public records, as you know, especially in Florida, very, very broad. It's created the Florida man, essentially. That's what our broad public records policy has done. Basically, it's any communication medium that transmits, perpetuates, and formulates knowledge of an agency. So, it could be, again, text messages, Post-it notes, whatever. It doesn't have to even be a finished product on agency letterhead. It can be even notes. It's very broad. So it's just another way of basically phrasing the public records definition. Goes more into, not having to be in final form. All right. Okay. Yep, more examples. Text messages, emails, memoranda reports, handwritten notes. So public records law basically gives the citizenry opportunity to have records captured by the law, produced by the custodian in their form within a reasonable amount of time. If we were to get a public records request, as a custodian, we would just produce what we have. It doesn't require us to put it in a certain formatting or, put more work than necessary into it. Now, this is excluding items that are exempt and or confidential. So penalties for violation. Again, attorney's fees can be assessed, board member removal, civil and criminal penalties. I highly recommend if you have a public records request or anything, it doesn't even need to, there's been a handful of times I've handled public records requests where that phraseology is not used. But what essentially the person is doing is a public records request. So anytime someone from the public comes at you and wants XYZ, that could fall into this category, treat it as a public records request. Or if you have any questions, either call me, or this is a good contact with the county manager's office. They could guide you in the right direction. Quasi-judicial decisions, quasi-judicial entities. So you all are a quasi-judicial entity where you are applying law, you're applying the Land Development Code, whereas legislative entities are making policies, making law. So you all act as both judge and jury. Basically, right here, the evidence standard is competent substantial evidence, which is found in the record, and so that's an interesting point. So competent substantial evidence, and again, Mr. Hadaway, I don't want to belabor any points or anything. I know you've all heard this. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So this is a question, I don't want to cause issues here, but
yeah,
James tonight, okay, so I've been on boards for 29 years. One of the things that I've always been told was that we're quasi-judicial.
Right.
We accept the evidence that's been presented to us either by staff or the applicant.
Right.
Make our decisions based on that. I get concerned, when you're standing here I researched it on my MLS, that we're not here to create evidence and introduce evidence. We're only supposed to hear and make our decisions on that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, just because on my city board that I served on for 20 years, a couple of our board members were removed because of that. We had an engineer that worked for Seminole County that was using Seminole County's website and records to introduce his own stuff to our items, and then another gentleman did the same thing. So I'm asking the question just in general, not to throw you under the bus, but is just basically that's always been an uncomfortable area for me.
Yeah.
And I just was looking for clarification if, like what happened tonight.
Right.
Doing that, if that's a concern, or should we issue caution to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there should definitely be caution introducing outside material that isn't part of the record, but of course becomes part of the record once it's introduced. Now, that doesn't prohibit board members. In fact, it's encouraged the board members, why you were selected, to use your expertise and knowledge and apply that to your decision making and whenever you render a decision. So in certain examples, I think if you're doing your due diligence, you're doing your research, I think, there is a risk where you could kind of go a little bit too far and get to that side, but I think if it's more limited and you're just applying your skill set and you're just looking at, what's available on the record, or maybe if you look up something on the map, maybe you want to look a little bit further. I don't see a problem with that, but again, it is a very fine line. So I do recommend caution, but there certainly isn't any problem with you applying your skill sets in the decision-making process. It's not that you have to be completely blind to that or dismiss what you have to offer, because ultimately that's why you've been selected to sit on this board.
And thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've seen it adversely affect other board members when they started going beyond their expertise and basically saying they did their own research with their own differences of software. And you even used the word my proprietary MLS software.
Yeah.
And so you kind of, in my mind, crossed over that.
Sure.
And that's fair. Honestly, this is my first ethics training within this.
Yeah,
and truly, to me, it was using due diligence in my expertise, but I do absolutely see, and I think part of the distinction, and correct me, this isn't the county commission, this is a judicial board, a quasi-judicial board.
Well,
Is that the
We are
difference?
judges, yes.
Yeah.
Right, that's the
Exactly.
difference, though? I mean,
Yeah.
like, we have a
And
commissioner
where-
can
We
bring
act like
questions.
judges, and we make our decision based on
what's
what's
right.
presented
What's
here.
presented.
And that's why we have the opportunity to question everybody.
Right.
Because where there might be holes or where something might not make sense to us, we fill that in.
Right.
That in.
Yeah, and again, to reemphasize my point, I would err on the side of caution and depend more on what the application itself and what's been produced. Now, to your point, the Board of County Commissioners, you're right, they wear multiple hats.
Right.
You know, so in the morning, they could be wearing their legislative hat. And then in the afternoon, quasi-judicial hearings, they're wearing their quasi-judicial hat, and they're just applying the code that's in existence. So, very, very good questions. But as a quasi-judicial body, your evidence standard is competent substantial evidence, which essentially means evidence that a reasonable mind, if someone were to just like walk in and say, how did they come to this decision? And they look at the paper trail, they look at the record, and a reasonable person could draw an inference on, okay, I could see how they got there. That, in a nutshell, is competent substantial evidence, and that's what you all are relying upon. Of course, basic due process principles are also meant to be adhered to, so notice and opportunity to be heard. I scratched out cross-examine witnesses. That's not something that you all do, so we just disregard that. That's something from a previous presentation that I didn't catch.
You'll see that maybe more in P and Z things.
Yeah, yeah. So this is another important component, and there's actually some case law on point with this, ex parte communications. So it's important before, I would say even before discussion, but especially before a decision is rendered, that you communicate any communication you may have had with the applicant. So that doesn't necessarily prohibit the person or exclude them from voting, but for principles of fairness, the applicant or maybe staff, they need to be aware of that information so they can potentially rebut it or respond to it. So it's important that that's kept in mind. Yes.
And I apologize if I'm stepping on your toes to
No,
add
no.
to that. Am I correct in also saying that the applicant or someone in opposition, they've got a First Amendment right to lobby us as extensions of the government, and we can talk to those people, but back to your point, that's why we really have an important obligation to say, by the way, the
Yes.
applicant called me, we had this conversation,
Yes.
this is what we talked about.
That needs to be divulged.
Yeah.
And again,
So there's
to
nothing
be
wrong
fair.
with the conversation, you just have to divulge it.
Correct. And I will say this, I would caution against presenting yourself in that way where all of a sudden now we're getting applicants approaching individual board members. But if there was a case where someone did their homework, like, hey, Jim Hadaway's the chairman, I'm going to shoot him an email. That, of course, would not preclude you from participating. You could still vote on the matter, but you need to divulge what that email was. So staff has an opportunity to know what was going on, what was being said, and they can rebut it, or there could be a discussion about it. All right.
That used to happen a lot. It doesn't happen much anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
It used to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess people know now.
I used to get people calling me and,
Yeah.
they wanted something, but.
Yeah.
So again, this just goes back into just establishing a clear record. Just, review is limited to what's in the application and the evidence submitted by the applicant. Of course, it doesn't preclude you as a board member and your expertise and your due diligence from inquiring and adding to the discussion and bringing certain issues to light that maybe was missed by staff, maybe was missed by the applicant. So, overall, this is really key for, of course, creating a clear record for posterity, and also, if one of your decisions gets challenged and then it gets appealed to the BCC, their appeal standard is de novo. So they're looking at it, it's basically a redo. And so at this level, we needed to make sure that there was a clear establishment of a record of why we came to a decision that we made. Even whenever we make certain motions, I think it's important to emphasize that outlining the motion and why we're coming to the decision that we're coming to. I think it helps establish a clear record, especially if there's an appeal or something that's more controversial. This just kind of reemphasizes just, using your own expertise and just the unique varied backgrounds that you all provide and offer to this board whenever you are deliberating and coming to your or discussing certain issues and voting on certain issues. Balance the equities, balance the private interests of property owners, the welfare of the community as a whole, the consistency of applying the land development code. Heed staff. Burden of proof is on the applicant. Show that they have met all the criteria that we've set out, all the hardship criteria. Then the burden shifts to the board. Basically, okay, why that individual may or may not have presented a valid case, and why, basically why the board shouldn't deny the application. And then this just goes back into substantial competent evidence, and we've already discussed that. So yeah, that's it. That wasn't too bad. And then if you all
25 minutes.
Oh, all right, even better. Of course, I'm going to provide a copy of this presentation for you all to have, just to review. I'm available if you have any additional questions or concerns, you want to talk about it more. My extension is 7240. Happy to answer any questions or concerns you might have. And that's it.
Those of us who've been doing this for a while, and Larry, you might remember, is competent substantial evidence used to be experts. And the Supreme Court of the state has changed that to be, whatever. And it's just, that's why we hear so much, and certainly in the county commission, they hear so much. And that's what, maybe about a 5 to 10-year-old change to things, but yeah, it used to be like if you didn't, you would bring in your engineer, your planner, all these people to discuss the matter, and that was about all that could be considered. Yeah, now it's just anybody, come on in, share your thoughts. Yeah, times change.
Yeah, and I will say that especially, and you can see that applied to the evidence standard, for example. It's very informal. And then of course, as if something procedurally goes a different direction and ends up in court, then you start to see become a little bit more restricted, a little bit more formal.
Yeah.
So.
That was very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll entertain the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Seconded.
All right. I'm going to say it's by acclamation. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.